All right, so a ratio is a comparison of two numbers. Do you have a notes handout for this section, for section 10.1? That handout should have this definition with a blank. You fill in the blank, so you write in comparison. The rest of it you should already have. Followed by the question, what do you think people may want to compare? So I'm going to give you an example of a ratio that I hear quite often, and then I'm going to see if you can come up with a couple more. So a very popular ratio, especially once you start driving a car, is miles to gallons of gas. So when you're buying a car, they'll say like, this car gets 22 miles per gallon. That's a ratio comparing the number of miles you can drive for every 1 gallon of gas. Do you guys have any other examples of a ratio? Two types of numbers you might want to compare. Yeah, you can write a couple different examples. If you don't like miles per gallon, you can come up with another one. But yes, there's a space in your notes for these examples. Anything else you might want to compare? Did you say toilet paper?
No.
Like how many, yeah, I've seen that on commercials, like 10 times more sheets per roll. Okay, I'll go with it. So, yeah, number of sheets.
He said something about his butt so good and wash his hands. He was like, that don't mean I didn't do it. But it's okay enough. He was like,
Okay, I'm not quite sure how the commercial goes. Apparently you've seen this one. So yes, that's something, it's on paper towel commercials too. Like twice as many sheets per roll. That's a ratio. You're comparing the number of toilet paper sheets to the roll of toilet paper. How many sheets per roll? Anything else? What about like when you're interviewing for your first job? Is there a ratio they talk about there? You just applied to Hardee's. At any point where they're like, how many dollars do you want per hour? That's a ratio. Yeah. How much money you're going to make for every hour you work. That's a very important ratio. You're comparing two numbers. How much money to how many hours. Girls, do you have ideas? Still talking about toilet paper? Okay. Anything else?
oh, how about the rolls that you got in her head?
How do you have to buy those in certain?
No, you have to
You buy the hair.
Yeah, you gotta buy
Yeah,
the
don't
hair.
you buy like a certain number of packages?
Yeah.
Okay, so like packs of hair per hairdo, right? So every time I go to the hair salon, I buy what's a normal number? 7. Okay, that's a ratio.
Depends on how big your head
7 packs of hair. Is that how you say?
But I gotta get 12 for
Per
little
visit to the salon. There's a ratio for you. Real life ratio. Miles per gallon. How many miles can my car drive for every gallon of gas? Like how far can I get? If I put 2 gallons in my tank, how far am I going to get before I have to pull over and get more gallons of gas? I don't know. My car only gets 18 miles per gallon, so not very far. Anything else? There's 3 examples on the board. We talked about a few more out loud. Write a couple of those in your notes. Have you guys ever heard, like with your cell phones, like how many hours the battery lasts? Is that a ratio you've heard of? Like 2 times as many hours per battery. I've heard that in cell phone commercials. There's ratios all over the place. I'm just trying to get you to think out of the box a little bit here. Anyway, we can continue with the notes. Yeah, how many eggs per carton? So 12 eggs per 1 carton. That's a ratio. Or you can get the bigger carton, 18 eggs per 1 carton. You've never seen that? Well, you need to go to Costco, my friend, because there is lots of, we get a pack that has 3 dozen in 1 pack. That's 36 eggs per 1 pack. That's a ratio for you. Oh, I have no idea. Not much. Like $3, $4.
That's it.
Yeah. Costco's cheap. why we go there. But then you got to eat all those eggs before they go bad. Anyway, I feel like we're getting a little off track. Back to ratios. Here are 3 different ways to write the ratio comparing the number A to the number B. So one way to write a ratio is with the word to. So A, T-O, B, A to B. The rest of these we still say A to B. Like if I was reading this ratio out loud, I would say like 6 miles to each gallon, or A to B. But you can write it using a colon, or the most popular way is to write it using a fraction. And then notice when you're using a fraction, that's a very easy way to see that these ratios can be simplified, and we simplify them the same way that we simplify fractions. So here is another common ratio that you might see when you're applying for colleges. Universities like to give you the ratio of students to faculty. So if they're telling you the ratio of students to faculty, that means the first number you see is the number of students. This is the number of faculty. So for every 13 students, there's 1 faculty member. Or for every 22 students, there's 1 faculty member. Which ratio do you think is better? Yeah, you would prefer to have a smaller ratio of students to faculty because you get more individual attention or more individual help. So there is a spot in your notes for you to explain it. If you want to explain it in your own words, like smaller classes would be better or something like that, you don't have to write out those 4 long lines of information. But that's kind of the long way to explain it, that this means that 1 teacher for every 13 students, that's less students for each teacher, so more individualized help may be given. So write up something like that explaining this ratio. But it is important to notice that if they say students to faculty, the first number you see is students, the second number you see is faculty. That's going to be one of the keys to writing these ratios, is keeping the numbers straight. Which number means which value. Alright, so here are the first examples. We are going to write each ratio in 2 different forms. So remember, the different forms are like the colon and the word to and the fraction. So the first one they give us is with the word to. 5 to 3. What's another way you could write that?
5 the things and 3.
5, the dot. Yep. And then what's the last way? The fraction. Very good. Be careful with fractions. Like if you try to do this one on the calculator, it's going to give you a mixed number. A mixed number has 3 numbers. Remember, a ratio is a comparison of only 2 numbers, so make sure you're double checking that. Improper fractions are okay with ratios. Mixed numbers are not. All right, number 2. See how they have the word dog and cat in the original problem? That means you need those words in your different forms as well. So we can do the colon, or we can do 4 dogs, 2 9 cats. All right, and the last one is comparing beards to goatees. What are the other 2 ways we can write it? What? Okay, 2 beards. 7 goatees. And then, yes, the word 2. So 2 beards, 2 7 goatees. Writing a ratio in simplest form is pretty much the exact same thing as simplifying a fraction. So you can either do it by hand or you can use the calculator. Guess which method I recommend?
The calculator.
The calculator. Why do all that math in your head if you have a handy little tool sitting on my desk that'll do all of it for you and not make mistakes? It's a beautiful thing. So if you need a calculator, grab one off my desk. The only problem is that the calculator will automatically make a mixed number if you type in an improper fraction. So we have to recognize when we have to turn it back to an improper fraction. That actually is going to happen on number 4. you can type this in as 18, the ABC button, 16. Hit the equal sign.
1 over 8.
It tells you 1 and 1/8, right? How many numbers are in that mixed number? 3. But a ratio is a comparison of 2 numbers. So we can't leave it like that. The way you tell the calculator, hey, I don't like that, is to don't clear it. Hit the second button and then hit the ABC button again. And that tells it like, hey, try again.
9 over 8.
Now it tells you 9 over 8. So if I want to reduce this ratio, it would be 9 girls to 8 boys. Now I would always leave it in the form that it gives it to you in. On your homework you actually simplify it and write it in the other forms at the same time, so it won't really matter on your homework too much. But I'm just going to leave it in the form that it was already in. Raise your hand if you need help typing it into the calculator. If you give me 1 and 1/8, I will mark you wrong. And I will shake my head. Yes, if you were doing this by hand, the way to do this by hand is to divide each number by the greatest common factor. We did a lot of GCF last chapter, same thing. You can list your factors for 18, you can list your factors for 16. The GCF is 2. When you divide each top and bottom by 2, you get 9 and you get 8. Thank you for pointing that out. I forgot to explain how to do it by hand to you guys. Any questions? So on number 5, if you're typing it in, you do 120, the ABC button, 240. Yeah, it's 1/2. So I would write my answer as 1 SUV to 2 cars. Basically that means for every 1 SUV there are 2 cars.
How you gonna write it to 2 cars when it say 2 already?
I did not understand your question.
I don't get it. I thought we were supposed to change it.
Right now we're just simplifying it.
So how do you get 1 and 2?
I typed in 120 ABC button 240 equal sign and it gave me 1/2. All right, try number 6. P.S. If you're doing this by hand, 120 is the GCF, so you divide both of them by 120. Get the same answer. On number 6, if you're working by hand and you did the GCF, 7 is the GCF. Just a little FYI for you. But again, I recommend the calculator. Why do all that extra work if the calculator is going to do it for you? 14 teachers to 91 students simplifies to what? 2 teachers and 13 students. Very good. All right, and number 7. Yeah, when you type this one in, it actually does not simplify. This is as simple as it gets, so just rewrite it.
Come in.
Come in!
So the directions here say to write the ratio in simplest form. So first we're going to write a ratio. We're going to simplify it if we can. Then we're going to infer 2 other ratios. It doesn't mean write it in 2 different forms. It means come up with completely different ratios. So I'm going to do this one for us, and then I'm going to have you guys help me with the next 2. All right, so on this one, my 5th hour class has 11 boys and 16 girls. So one ratio I could write would be 11 boys to 16 girls. Now, I'll type that into my calculator using the ABC button. I'll hit the equal sign, and it doesn't simplify. So I'm done on that ratio. I just wrote a ratio using the two numbers that were in the problem, and I double checked to see if it would simplify. It does not simplify, so I'm done with that ratio. Now, visualize this in your head. You walk into a room. There are 11 boys. There are 16 girls. Are you all envisioning this? Is there another number you could come up with? 11 boys. 16 girls. Do you know anything about the total number of people in the room? There would be 27 people in the room. We are going to use that number to write two other ratios. Everybody with me? So there's always, we call it the third number. There's always some third magical number you can come up with. It's usually the total, or sometimes they already give you the total and then it's kind of like the opposite of whatever they gave you. So in this one, we just add the boys and the girls. You're either a boy or a girl. So when I put those together, that's the total number of people in the room. So another ratio I could write would be the ratio of boys to the total number of people, or the ratio of girls to the total number of people. What are your questions? Here's a good hint for you. If the first one does not reduce, none of them will reduce.
What if it does reduce?
Then you have to reduce all of them. Just type them into the calculator. Any questions on what we just did? Make sure you're labeling these too. Don't just put 11 to 27. I don't know what you're talking about. Raise your hand if you have a question. Raise your hand if you need more time. All right, let's check out number 9. Number 9 says, a basketball player makes 6 shots out of every 10 shots that he takes. So imagine he shoots the ball 10 times. 6 of them go in. What other number do you have in your head right now?
16.
4. 4 of them did what?
Didn't go in.
Did not go in. So I'm just going to write that off to the side. 4 of these shots were missed. So 6 went in, 4 did not go in, 10 total shots. Everyone's still with me? Now I'm going to write all 3 ratios first, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to simplify all of them. Let's just get them all down on paper and then type them into the calculator. So the first 2 numbers they gave us, let's start with those. So 6 shots went in, so 6 shots were made out of the 10 total shots. Everybody with me? Leave a little room because we're going to reduce that. Now, you guys also came up with 4, right? That's another ratio. 4 of the shots were missed out of that 10 total. And then you can also compare the missed and the made. So, which one do you want to go first? Missed or made? It doesn't really matter. Okay, 4 missed. For every 6 that were made.
We did 4 from the beginning.
I came up with it in my head. I inferred that if you stand there and shoot the ball 10 times, and 6 of those went in, the other 4 must have not gone in, right? It either goes in or it doesn't go in. Now we can reduce. So now get that calculator handy. Type in 6 ABC 10. What do you get? 3/5. So 3 made, 5 total. All right, simplify the next one. 4 to 10. 2/5. So that means 2 missed to 5 total shots. And the last one, 4 missed, would be 2/3. So 2 missed for every 3 that were made. Good. Now, in my first hour, we actually wrote it, simplified it, wrote it, simplified it, wrote it, simplified it. If you want to do it that way, that's fine. Or if you just want to use the original 3 numbers, write all 3 ratios, reduce, reduce, reduce. That's fine as well. Raise your hand if you have any questions. All right, last one of the day, and then your homework. Number 10, a Boy Scout troop set up a stand in front of a local grocery store to sell their cookies. Out of the first 50 people that went into the store, 12 ended up buying at least 1 box of cookies. So put yourself in the situation. You're sitting there. Hey, mister, you want some cookies? Hey, mister, you want some cookies? Hey, mister. Okay, you say it 50 times. 12 people stop and buy cookies. What's another number you could come up with? 38. 38 people did what? Did not buy cookies. Very good. So 50 is our total number of people that walked by. 12 of them bought. 38 of them did not. We're going to use those 3 numbers to write 3 different ratios. The first ratio is going to be with the 12 and the 50. 12 bought cookies out of 50 total people. All right? What's another ratio we could write? Yeah, 12 people bought to 38 that did not buy. And what's the final ratio? Yeah, 38 did not buy to 50 total. You could do the 50 on top, the 38 on the bottom. I don't like improper fractions. I prefer to not have them. So when I'm coming up with how to write them, I usually put the total on the bottom. But if you put it on the top, I would absolutely not mark you wrong. You're still completely right. It's just not the way I prefer to do it. All right, now let's see if they reduce. Let's reduce, reduce, reduce. What is 12 ABC 50? 6 over. Okay, so 6 bought the cookies out of the 25 people, or the 25 total. All right, what about 12 over 38? Wait, 6 over 19, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so 6 bought, 19 did not. I probably shouldn't say total if I'm reducing, because you can't have 2 totals. This should probably say people, but whatever. We're not getting too technical. All right, and last,
19 over 25.
19 did not buy. I'm going to write people this time just to be a little bit more accurate. Out of the 25 people that walked by. What are your questions on this? All right, here comes your homework.